Happy, what day is it? Wednesday? And I am shockingly on time today. Aren't you guys shocked? On time for the live stream, should I say. Well, thanks for being here. I'm excited to talk about Antarctica, something that has like fascinated me since I was a little kid. And for years of just like even all these weird things aside, something had always intrigued me. So then when I started learning about the weird things, I'm like, oh, okay, there is something to this place. So I am looking forward to speaking with you guys about it tonight, and getting some other people's perspectives on it too. And the thing with okay, sorry, I'm like, did I turn the mic on? I couldn't remember. And like as I dig into it, there's so many different facets and perspectives about this place. And I feel like this is like just a part one. I mean, this is only kind of skimming the surface tonight. And yeah, so let's see who's in the see who is in the live chat tonight. Hey Russ. Russ says, "OMG, this should be good." I hope so. I hope I didn't get your hopes up. But thanks for being here tonight, guys. Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Drix. Thank you, Clintrons. Good afternoon. Hey, Tomas. Nice to see you back. Oh, I see a snowflake. It's not snowing here, thankfully. Thankfully, we didn't get that much snow this year, and I am grateful for that. Usually I like it, but not so much lately. Hey, Bobby Hexelrod, how's it going? So Bobby had texted me about this potential alien invasion that was supposed to happen last week that people were predicting, and it was funny because you want to know the first thing I thought when I saw that, and I'm sorry, I'm so bad at returning text, but I did see it and it made me smile. One of the first things I thought was like, wonderful. Right as Pulse Chain is getting closer to being launched, now the aliens got to come, and then just and then we don't get to see our gains. But yeah, we are still here. Not that I believe in an alien invasion, but it was interesting, and I know that Bobby doesn't either. But it's just like, hey, this is what everyone's thinking right now. Oh, Fox Mulder, I like the play on words. Okay, so Fox like V for Vendetta, right? Like that English history, and then Mulder. I like that play on words, and it's funny because I've been thinking really hard lately about, I'm always thinking about X-Files, but I'm like, I really need to go on for a rewatch. Just the only thing that makes me hesitate is when I mean, I would always watch it here and there as a kid, but when I decided to say, like, let me sit through the entire series and watch it, that was around the time of the revival seasons. It took me 2.5 years to watch through that because I am not a good binge watcher, but man, what a great watch those 2.5 years are. So I'm like, okay, am I a better binge watcher now, or is it just going to take me 2.5 years again? But whatever, it's worth it. And I'm like, I want to read my X-Files guides to go along with it. I want to go into this hardcore. So, but alrighty, so let's jump into Antarctica because I could talk for hours about the X-Files and then, and this new X-Files news about our X-Files reboot. I usually like, I like revivals. Not always into reboots, but like rebooting the X-Files with a completely different cast just does not click with my heart. My heart is not in it. Unless they want to hire me to be in it, and that's a different story. But so yeah, so Antarctica tonight. Oh, Bobby Hexelrod has an update. Quick update. Oh, before I get started. Oh, my grandma. Oh, well, I don't really talk about her on stream. I will text you, but all's well. She's doing really good. Thank you. But I know some of you guys might have seen some of my funny tweets. I like to tweet the funny things that happen. But thank you for asking. I appreciate that. There's talk about X-Files reboot. Yeah, that's what I was that's what I've been thinking about lately. And I'm like, I can't get into it. I do like the new characters that were introduced in the revival series, and people talked about spinning them off. I wouldn't have been into it, but like I have nothing against new characters, but I cannot imagine a series without Mulder and Scully. And they tried to do that in the later seasons, and it semi worked because I guess Scully really is the heart of the show. But without the two of them, and I do not think. Well, it's interesting because Gillian Anderson, I was about to say, I don't think she's interested in coming back, but she has said that she would be interested in coming back if there were different writers involved. So I guess this reboot would involve different writers. So, okay. I'm all for the reboot if the original characters are on board, but then I guess it wouldn't be a reboot, it would be a revival. But yeah, sorry. I am heading into an X-Files spiral. But yeah, I really blocked my lighting in a weird way today. That was bad. Okay. But anyway, so yeah, so Antarctica. So I started digging into just a lot of things that are being said about Antarctica. You know, some of the wilder things, but some of the more like weirder things that are actually based in fact, that have weird facts to back them up. And like, well, let me also throw in this disclaimer. I know there's a lot of you that are flat earthers, and you know, we are on different pages and we respect each other's views, right? It's cool. We can both have our own views. So just as, you know, a heads up, um, these perspectives on Antarctica, they're coming from my worldview. So they're coming from the globe view, the view that Antarctica is a continent that is sitting on the bottom of the earth. And we're not going to attack each other for that, right? We respect each other's beliefs on that. So we're not, I'm not exploring it from the ice wall perspective. I am exploring it from the continental perspective. And there's some really interesting things that are coming up about that. Oh, you made it, Ricky. Thanks for popping in. Hey, Lit. Thanks for being here. So it's awesome seeing you guys. So yeah, so if anyone didn't catch my disclaimer, that this Antarctica thing is coming from these Antarctic views are coming from my worldview of the globe Earth, and no disrespect for the flat Earth, the ice wall perspective. I don't know enough about that to even talk about it. So we're talking the continental perspective. But those of you who are on a different page, thanks for being here anyway. I appreciate that, and thank you to anybody in the replay who's watching. All righty. Ooh, elbow bump to you too, QC Organics. Nice seeing you. All righty. Well, are we still doing elbow bumps? I thought we can go back to fist bumps again. All right. So yeah, so I started digging into the history of Antarctica, the different perspectives. Oh, thank you, Hexforce. You just made it home from work. Ah, so perfect timing and this unusual timing. I'm starting a little later than usual. Oh, here, everybody's flowing in now. Thank you guys so much. Uncle Will, nice to see Uncle Will. Very nice seeing you. Thanks, guys, for being here. Oh, and I hope my internet's working. I'm getting some weird Wi-Fi signal. I don't know where that's coming from. I think StreamYard's trying to tell me my Wi-Fi is bad. It probably is. What can I do? Yeah. So I started before I dug more into the weirdness of Antarctica. Okay. Let me just look at the history, the timeline events as presented to us. And I say as presented to us because we know the timelines, everything, any type of history we're given there's always a bias in history. It's always off. There's always a reason why history is written the way it is. So I always take it with a grain of salt. But let's, looking at the official timeline of this. So the 1700s is like when the official explorations of Antarctica begins. And you started getting claims from different countries in the world, started by James Cook. So they say in the 1700s, I forget the exact year, but that James Cook was the first person to discover Antarctica, which I don't believe. But that's what the official narrative says. And he went down and he claimed South George Island for England, is what they say. And then by the time the early 1900s rolled around, 1907 through like 1909, Ernest Shackleton, so we all know the name Shackleton, he led the British Antarctic expedition and, established a winter over colony on Ross Island. And then by the time 1928 rolls around, that's when Richard Byrd comes into the picture. Now, Richard Byrd was a naval officer and a polar explorer. And he felt that Antarctica was just this untouched reservoir of natural resources, that, there was a lot of potential down there and that it was supposed to be explored. And he's like the big name because when the weird stuff starts happening, he's really connected to what's going on, the cover-ups, everything that was going on that way, which we will get into. So, but in 1928, he comes into the picture. He establishes the Little America Base Camp on the Ross Ice Shelf, and the Ross Ice Shelf is that huge shelf of ice floating in the water that, like, supposedly is like the size of a state. It's massive. So And then, by the time the 30s roll around, 1939, Hitler sends a Nazi expedition down there. We know there's like a whole other Nazi conspiracy happening with Antarctica, which, like I said earlier, there's so much to cover with this. I'm like, this might have to be part one. I wasn't even able to get into the Nazi stuff yet. I'm like, I think the Nazi, might I get banned for saying Nazi too much, but I think that those conspiracies deserve their own show. But so they're down there too. And then by the time World War II is over, then the United States is like, okay, we really got to explore what our options are with Antarctica. And Admiral Byrd, he ends up leading Operation High Jump, and we know Operation High Jump because there's a lot of legend that surrounds Operation High Jump. Admiral Byrd's diaries, which his son ended up finding years later and claiming that, it was the truth about what happened in Antarctica, but the truth that Byrd wasn't allowed to release. So this was that, big expedition that happened down there. He brought 4,700 men down to Antarctica with 13 ships that included 1 aircraft carrier, 19 airplanes, and a large contingent of scientists to just map and explore Antarctica. And like, when you look at that, you're like, okay, conditions are harsh. I guess you would need a lot of people to get it done quickly, to get it done efficiently. I guess it could make sense. But I'm like, that's a massive amount of people to bring down there. It kind of, 4,700 men, like, mostly military, it kind of makes me feel like that they thought there was a potential threat. There needed to be something, that there was something you needed protecting from down there, that there was something more to it. Like, think of most scientific expeditions today. Usually do not have that amount of manpower and ships and boats and stuff. It's like, okay, was the United States going down to establish some sort of colony and to take whatever they wanted from Antarctica, and that's why they brought so many people? Or is there more to the story? And if you're here, I'm sure you can agree that there is more to the story, because we all tend to think the same way. So hey Hex Glenn, and hey Andrew, nice seeing you guys tonight. Thanks guys for coming on this weirder night than usual, smack in the middle of the week and then a little later. So this whole expedition happens, and then by the time 1961 rolls around, the Antarctic Treaty happens. So all the countries in the world decide, okay, something's going on here. Okay, they didn't say that. Okay, but they all decide, they all band together and go, you know what? We need to sign this treaty, and we're gonna, I forget how many countries it is. I should have pulled up the actual number. Is it 20-something countries that they're like, you know what? We're gonna say that you cannot claim any land in Antarctica. No one country can own it. We're all gonna work together here, and we are also going to say that people can't visit Antarctica. All right, and we are going to protect it as nature that has to be untouched, and nobody can come here, nobody can claim land, and we're going to work together to make this possible. We're going to use our militaries, which all those countries in the world working together toward one goal, I think, is the first red flag, because when does that happen? And then second of all, another red flag, when do governments ever do anything for anyone else's benefit? Oh no, this is for your safety that you're not allowed in Antarctica, and we're going to work together to make that happen. I'm sorry, that's another thing. They don't care about your safety. They don't care about working together. So those are just two very big red flags at that moment. I don't have caffeine in my system, so excuse my word stumbling. So, hey, Doug. Hey, Magazine. Oh, you are obsessed with Antarctica most of your life. I feel the same way. I've always been intrigued by it, but I didn't know about the weirdness until I was an adult. But there's always that pull. There's always that draw that there's something odd going on down there. So at least we live in a time with the internet where we can share these ideas. You can get this stuff out to a wider audience. Like, there's so much you can dig into online. That's why I'm like, okay, I think this is going to have to be a part one. So that's the official narrative of Antarctica, that it was 1700s on, that nobody knew about it, and that it was just discovered by Captain Cook, and then all the other countries got into it. But there's some weirdness with this. So supposedly no one knew about it until the 1700s when it was explored by the explorers. But if you go back to some old maps, it actually appears on maps from the 1500s. So there is a map called the Piri-Reis map, and it depicts Antarctica before European explorers even knew it was there. And which is interesting. It's intriguing. So, but I mean, it's not exactly shocking, because you're like, okay, well, maybe there was just exploration that went down, but no official record, or the records got lost over town, or it was just word of mouth. So Peary restrew it on his map in the 1500s, right? But it gets weirder, because this map from the 1500s, it shows Antarctica as it appears under the ice. So we know in Antarctica, it's a landmass, but then there's 2 kilometers of ice on top of it. So somehow this map from the 1500s, before, we had like scientific tools to be able to see under the ice, whatever those tools may be, radar, I don't know exactly what they're using. But this map from the 1500s showed what the actual coastline is without the ice, which weird, very odd. I'm sorry, guys, if my Wi-Fi is buffering or stalling. I don't know. Sorry, StreamYard keeps giving me some sort of alert. So, okay, another red flag. Okay, so red flag number 6. When Trump was inaugurated and all hell broke loose, many world leaders and religious leaders, led by John Kerry, I think, all went to Antarctica. Thought only scientists and military are allowed. Yeah, this is the odd thing. I've never heard that. I've never heard that theory. But the way they protect it, like, I wouldn't be surprised if supposedly they tell us that it's scientists down there, that it's the workers that help with logistics, that it's the military running, the planes for everybody, that it's just a place of like community and scientific research. But really, who knows what's down there? And I guess that might have to be for the next show, but I appreciate you throwing that in there. Yeah. So I mean, there definitely, as we dig deeper into this, we're gonna see that there's a lot more, that there's a lot more to the story. And I think the fact that nobody's allowed to go there, because I think it should be an enter at your own risk thing. If you climb Mount Everest and you need rescue, you're pretty much out of luck, right? Because you were climbing it at your own risk. Nobody's gonna come and help you, unless they do. But for the most part, right, you climb these mountains at your own risk. So I think, when it comes to Antarctica, it should be the same thing. Go at your own risk. We're not going to restrict you, but we're not going to rescue you if things go wrong, right? That would be the thing to do, especially if nobody owns it. You don't need a visa to go there. Then anybody should be allowed to walk into. I think that's why they pull that whole BS about, we don't want the nature being disrupted. Because it's a massive continent. If you let people in here and there, it's already inhospitable. You're not going to have that many people coming in or out. So you don't need to worry about banning regular citizens from coming in or out. Very few people can do that. So, so that whole excuse that nature's the problem, I don't buy either, that you want to preserve that. Yeah, exactly. Nothing to see here. Move along. But yeah, so that 1500s map is like, sorry, I'm trying to figure out what's happening on my screen. Okay. So that 15 kind of threw me for a loop when I heard that, so, in the Piri-Reis map, something odd that they noted is that Antarctica is connected to South America. And so besides the fact that Antarctica on that map is not covered in ice, it is also, it's also connected to South America, which we know, okay, South America might be relatively close to it, but it is not connected to it. And the official explanation that's given was, when they made these maps, they weren't caring about the accuracy. They were just wanted the coast to be accurate on the map. They weren't looking into like distance accuracy with it, which is odd, because there are so many other things that are very accurate on these maps. Why would they all of a sudden throw distance accuracy out the window? But yeah, so So that's kind of an odd thing, which we're gonna see why that might be the case as we go on. So then you end up having in 1531, there's another map that's out there, and it was called the Orontius Phineas map. And the Orontius Phineas map also shows Antarctica is ice free. So just like the Piri Reis map, you got two maps from the 1500s that are showing Antarctica is ice free. And it is so accurate. It's even showing, the correct mountains in Antarctica and the rivers in Antarctica. And you're like, okay, how would people back then even know that those things existed? They didn't have the scientific tools to go and find those things, to discover those things. So like something's off there. That they had that ability, that these things existed, before Cook even entered Antarctica. There's okay, and there's some debate. There's some debate too. Some people are like, well, the Piri Reis map might not be Antarctica. It could actually just be South America, just drawn, incorrectly, and maybe it's South America. Fine. You want to throw away the Piri Reis map? The Orontius Phineas map is undeniable. That is absolutely Antarctica. It has the correct mountains. It has the correct rivers that would have been there if there's no ice. It 100% Antarctica. And it's odd because, again, how would these people know what's happening here? And it's thought that Piri Reis actually had access to the library at Alexandria and also the Imperial Library in Constantinople, which, okay, ancient libraries with ancient knowledge that, mysteriously it was burned down, right? Convenient. Somebody was trying to block the ancient knowledge. So it kind of makes you wonder what kind of ancient knowledge was in there. So it's thought that Piri Reis took his information from there. So there's some sort of ancient knowledge happening. So it wasn't Piri Reis that saw Antarctica with that ice, but he was able to get access to ancient documents that covered that topic, which sorry. I love interacting. Sorry, it's so hard going back and forth from this info and interacting with the chat because I want to talk to everybody in the chat, but I also I have this info here. So yeah, oh my gosh, right? Wouldn't that, yeah. The remote viewing, is it? Now here's the thing, I don't know enough about remote viewing. Is that actually people doing the viewing, or is that like thing that they talk about in the Vatican that can view things? Or I'm reading Childhood's End that they actually have these little viewing TV sets that would that they would be able to view things all over the world. So sorry, I promise this is water and not liquor. Yeah. Oh gosh, can you imagine what those fossils are like in Antarctica? And the thing is, I think they have the ability to reach them. They like to say, they always say that technology is 50 years behind what we actually have. Whatever they're telling us, whatever they're showing us, the powers that be, that's 50-year-old technology. So it's actually 50 years more advanced. So when they say that they haven't drilled all the way through the ice and hit land yet, I don't believe that. I'm sure there is fossils. And it's like, yeah, when are they going to show it to us? When are they going to show us what's actually going on? But the interesting thing about that is they have taken core samples from, and I guess this is the next point I'm going to get to. They've taken core samples from the seabeds near Antarctica, and when they pulled it up, they have found fossilized material from a temperate environment, from like an environment that would be like northern Italy's environment. So which leads us to the next thing. So the next point is that it seems like a great reset might have taken place. So there was access to ancient knowledge that knew that Antarctica wasn't always covered in ice, that had, everything in Antarctica all mapped out. And so there's that thought about great resets happening throughout history, that there have been advanced civilizations on this earth that just get wiped out by a great cataclysm. And people say that Antarctica held an advanced civilization, but Antarctica wasn't always in the Antarctic Circle. They said that it was actually 30 degrees north, which is about 2,000 miles north of where it was at, and that it was a temperate environment, and you had an advanced civilization that lived on it, that was capable of mapping, and who knows what else they were capable of. And there was a cataclysm, and I'm sorry, there was a specific explanation for the scientific cataclysm, but I think it might have been a plate subduction zone where one plate subducted under the other and pulled Antarctica down 30 degrees, like in a really short amount of time. Like, they tell us that these processes happen like over many, many, many years, but it's looking like that if this did happen, it happened over the course of maybe only 2,000 years. And they're saying like, or not, I think it was like, from 9,000 BC to 7,000 BC, like a really short time period in geologic history. So it happened really rapidly, got pulled down into the Arctic Circle, and that's where it ended up getting the ice. And this advanced civilization that was on it ended up having to flee, because that's an inhospitable environment, having to flee Antarctica and moving to other places around the world. So when we see these incredible megalithic structures around the world, okay, yeah, there's some thought that it was built by the Nephilim, that it was built by giants, but this theory posits that, oh no, it was actually built by this advanced civilization that lived in Antarctica after that great cataclysm, that great reset, moved their civilization down into the Antarctic Circle. They spread out into these other countries, and they were the builders of these megaliths. And I mean, it's an interesting theory because, again, we don't know, or they tell us that we don't know what is under that ice. So it could be an incredible advanced civilization. Like, there could be buildings under there. I mean, that's 2 kilometers of ice, and we would have no clue, right? I mean, I think it's wild, because people do talk about, oh, we see pyramids peering out of the ice. I don't believe that, though, because when you look closely, it does look like the tops of mountains. But people are like, oh, there are pyramids peering out of the ice, and some other really interesting structures in the ice. And I'm going to pull up a video. Before I do, I want to. I'm going to pop into the live chat. Have I heard about the Carl Roberts Ditch Antarctic mystery? No, I haven't. But like I said, this is going to need a part 2, so I'm going to look that up. Thank you. Oh, thank you. No, it's such a fun topic, and there's like so much to cover. I feel like I can't do it justice, but I'm like, even just like the map stuff is enough for one show, because it's mind-blowing that these maps from the 1500s are showing Antarctica without ice, and it's really telling. But that narrative is not something that's talked about. Instead, they feed us Cook discovered it in the 1700s. That was that was when otherwise nobody even knew about Antarctica before that. But it's also silly, because you look at Polynesian history, the Polynesian cultures talks about the origin of their civilization coming from Antarctica, whether it be before it slid into the Antarctic Circle or after. I'm not sure I don't know the full story of their history, but they talk about it. The Polynesian people knew about Antarctica long before Cook, not Dr. Cook. I don't know where Doctor came from, ever went there. So remote viewing is freehand. Oh, okay, gotcha. It's like automatic writing. Okay, I was thinking of something else. Gotcha. They froze the land to hide what's underneath. I've heard that too. That, okay, yes, it could have been a cataclysm, just some sort of freak climate change that happened, or that was part of the hiding of everything before. But, well, I guess there's 2 ways you can look at it. If there was an advanced civilization that was able to basically, oh shoot, what is that thing? Terraform. Let's say there was an advanced civilization that was able to terraform Antarctica and make it hospitable. Okay, then they could stay in the Antarctic Circle. But otherwise, if they didn't have that terraforming ability, there wouldn't be a way to keep that ice off, so that they couldn't cover it in ice. But so it's like, were they terraformers and then stopped terraforming and we're able, oh shoot, my Mac is running out of battery. I forgot to plug that in. Okay, hold on a minute. Okay, I have some time, but let me just finish that thought. But yeah, no, it's interesting because sorry, I'm going through it in my head. So I'm like, oh cool. Maybe they could have been terraforming. But that cataclysm thing is I thought was pretty fascinating because we know that there are subduction zones where the plates move one under the other. And if I've wondered that in the past. I'm like, how will we haven't had this imaging. They say that the plates only move 2 inches a year, but satellite imaging is only a relatively recent scientific thing to happen. Okay, maybe it's only moving 2 inches a year now, but how do we know it was never more in the past, like very quickly? How do we know it's slow? It could happen very quickly, but we just don't have the direct evidence to observe that. So I'm like, well, maybe this is kind of possible proof of that, especially when they're getting those core samples from the ocean beds and they're finding that that the climate was pretty temperate. And I guess people say, well, that was ancient history with Pangea or whatever, but I'm like, how do we know? How anything's possible, really. Sorry, my brain's going like 20 places at once and I don't even know where to hit on that. But let me go back to the chat before I grab my charger. You love our I've only ever seen the prequel to The Thing, but I have to watch The Thing. Remote viewing started as a research program at Stanford funded by the government, but went to the Army/CIA. Isn't it always interesting how the government and the CIA gets involved in these things? They like to discredit all this and act like it's all like fake mumbo jumbo, but yet they have their hands in the stuff just as much as just as much as anyone else. Oh yeah, the Great Resets explains so much, which is interesting that the WAP thing is also called a Great Reset, but I guess that's neither here nor there. No, go ahead and share it. I have no problem with that. Oh, actually, Mount Ararat in Turkey shows a lot of evidence of Noah's Ark, but I know I am sure there is something under that Antarctic ice, and also on top, which we'll talk about too. Well, I guess we don't know the capabilities of terraforming because we don't, but you never know what was possible with an advanced civilization. Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure they have it. It's just like everything else, they don't release it. Wasn't it Buzz Aldrin who posted pics of a pyramid-looking structure in Antarctica could be a gateway to further/deeper? It's interesting because there was that rumor about Buzz Aldrin that he went to Antarctica and that he went to Antarctica and he saw something and he had to come back home and went to the hospital and he, because of what he saw, and he showed some pictures and it was a pyramid looking structure. And then of course, when you see things on the internet, it was like, oh, it was faked, it wasn't this, it was that, and you don't know what to believe. But sometimes, where there's smoke, there's fire. He really did get taken off Antarctica because he did have a health issue. But, was that a cover up to something deeper? People do see some odd structures when they're searching through Google Earth, which is interesting because you would think that Google Earth would be completely censored, that they would be scanning that to make sure that there's nothing in there. But sometimes, they do pick up some really odd stuff there. But okay, let me get my charger before I go into the next rant. Sorry, give me 2 seconds. I'm just gonna blank my screen so you can't see my pajama bottoms. Give me 1 moment. All right, there we go. All right, good to go. And I didn't shut off my light in the process. One of my lights are going bad. Whenever I touch it, it goes out. Whenever I touch the yeah. But so we're good. All right. Um I know, I know. One of my local movie theaters keeps putting the thing there, and I keep missing it because I'm like I'm gonna wait till I can see it in the movies, and it's not happening. I keep missing it. Yeah, there I am. I'm back. All right. And I kept thinking to myself, let me grab my charger, and then I forgot. All right. Oh gosh, I have like so much info compiled in here. I don't even know where to start. Um, but yeah, but it's interesting because that okay. So Egyptians were really in the Egyptians were like really, really into seafaring, right? They had those great boats. They were super intrigued by that. And it's interesting because the Egyptians and the so like the ancients, who was it? It was the Egyptians and I believe the Aztecs who were able to use pi correctly way before Archimedes calculated it in the 3rd century BC. And it's thought that they inherited it from the same seafaring advanced civilization. Because there are, I'm sorry, I said Aztec is actually Incan, because there are Incan legends that claim that all knowledge came from the sea. It's interesting because okay, Africa, and you can get to Egypt through the Mediterranean. And South America, you can connect all of that through the same ocean. If you had an advanced seafaring civilization, it would be easy to go back and forth. And again, if they were leaving Antarctica and heading out to these places, they would have those interactions. Or I guess once they were spreading all over the earth. So it's interesting because looking at the way they both built, those pyramids, they're like these people knew pi long before it was quote unquote like discovered. All right. And the fact that the Incan legends are claiming that all knowledge came from the sea, people are like, okay, this might actually be linked to that Antarctic civilization that was ancient and advanced. So yeah, and it's interesting because you say Atlanteans, and I'm like, well, maybe Antarctica is Atlantis. I don't know. I've never heard that there. I didn't look too much into it, but as you start hearing this stuff, you're like, okay, these might have been, maybe Atlantis was Antarctica, right? Atlantis supposedly went into the sea. They were an advanced civilization and spread their knowledge out to other people. Okay, that sounds like, okay, kind of like Antarctica. Antarctica didn't sink into the sea, but it moved 2,000 miles south in the sea till it moved on to an inhospitable place, and it's basically buried under ice. Or maybe it was buried intentionally to cover their secrets. Who knows? But oh, okay. I'm sorry, I quoted the years wrong, but it was between 14,500 and 12,500 BC. But basically, very short amount of time for that to slide down into the Arctic Circle. So so sorry, I like totally threw myself off. I am catching up on my notes now. I'm not as prepped as I should be because I just kept digging and digging and digging, and I'm like, I don't know where to start, where to go, and it's just because originally, when you think about Antarctic theories, I've heard, I'm mainly familiar with the whole thing of, and aliens on Antarctica, Nazis, ice wall on a flat Earth, but I've never heard these perspectives from it. Like, okay, an advanced civilization living under there. I've heard the Hollow Earth thing with Admiral Byrd going into Agartha, but I'm like, okay, this was complete news to me. This was I thought was very intriguing. So sorry, would you say tough to make good pie? Oh yeah, pie day. Eating pie. Did you ever do that as a kid? Have pie day and then eat pie on pie day? So maybe when Atlantis was destroyed, they settled there, or maybe it was like an ice biodome to keep out gross humans. But I don't think it was an alien civilization on Antarctica. Like it's starting to really seem like a human civilization that was advanced that was wiped out through a great reset potentially, and Antarctica did slide 30 degrees south. I mean, I do think that that position is pretty viable. But I mean, that's the ancient history of Antarctica. But as you start getting into like what's happening now with it, and a lot of the strangeness that's going on, um, you start finding things on top of the ice. And there are like military people who actually claim to have been sent on reconnaissance missions to check out these things on the ice. So what do you think about the difference between equivalent latitudes in the north of the sphere showing much more life, animal, and vegetation? Okay, so you mean like, yeah, why is the Arctic Circle more habitable than the Antarctic Circle, right? I think that's the question that's being asked. So I was wondering the same thing too. I'm like, okay, why is one so much colder and so much more hostile to life and the other one isn't? So I, was digging into it. And again, I know people are like, well, some of this stuff is BS and they fake these facts to keep us out. But this actually made a lot of sense. That the North Pole, it's mainly just water. Okay, and then the South Pole is actually a continent with a bunch of ice sitting on top. And water, they say, absorbs a lot more heat from the sun than ice. Ice just reflects it all back. So when you have all that sunlight reflecting back, it's not warming anything up, and it's just bouncing back into the atmosphere. And then ice, all that massive amount of ice sitting there just makes it colder too. So they say, all of that combination happening plus the ocean currents, because the ocean currents in the earth do affect weather patterns and climate and everything. Just it's like the perfect storm to making that super cold down there. And then all that water up at the North Pole is warming things, and it's still cold, but at least it's more hospitable. You get more life up there. You get polar bears, you get people living in the Arctic Circle. And that's that's basically because of that lack of ice, and that absorption of sunlight. And I heard an interesting fact. How everybody's like, oh my gosh, the polar ice caps are melting and this and that, and it's so bad, and the world's gonna flood. It's been noted that yes, there is melting of the ice up at the North Pole. That's totally a thing. But as that's happening, there is a buildup of more ice happening on the South Pole. So the amount of ice that's already there, that is building up and it's getting bigger and bigger. So it's actually balancing itself out. And when they try to claim that, oh my gosh, this ice broke off from Antarctica and it was the size of Manhattan, and look, this is gonna flood the world. First of all, look at where the elites are buying their houses. They're all buying their houses. They all have beachfront property, so they're not worried about this. But on top of that, think about ice in your glass. If you have ice in your glass that's floating on water, when the ice melts, does your glass overflow? No, because that water was already displaced, that amount of water, all right? So it does not overflow. So it's the same thing. If you have, ice shelves breaking up on Antarctica, that stuff was already floating on water. So it's not adding to the sea levels if anything happens to it. So, but basically it balances itself out. We live in a beautiful world that everything is somehow works together in balance. Nature just works like in, just synchronicity, whatever you want to call it. That's what's happening. So I thought that was pretty cool. Oh my gosh. Admiral Byrd's account is wild. And we'll get to that too. Oh yeah, so it's so different how the poles are. With the Southern Lights thing, yeah, I'm pretty sure I feel like I forget what they're called. They don't call them, the Aurora Borealis, but they have something down there, and I can't remember it now. Let me see. Unless I'm thinking of constellations. I might be thinking of constellations. Hold on. Okay. Oh, Aurora Australis or Southern Lights. They're more common at higher latitudes. But yeah. Okay, so they do have the southern lights. Interesting. That was a good question. And I would wonder, okay, so we know this has to do with magnetic fields and particle collisions from the sun, in the Earth's magnetic fields, and that's where those, northern and southern lights come from. But I wonder if they're stronger up north because of that lack of ice, because there's so much more water, if that changes things. Ah, thank you. Yeah, Aurora Australis. I don't see the link, but maybe it's showing up for someone else. Oh, I think you have to be a mod in order to post links, otherwise it won't show. But it's all right. We can search it like this. Thank you though for bringing that up. Yeah. So Southern Lights. I guess maybe do we just not hear about it as much because, we're in the northern hemisphere? All great civilizations, militaries, governments build monuments and special ley lines. Once I read how the military science bases in Antarctica were on some ley lines, one being 6 latitude 66 long. Let me tell you, the occults and their numbers, they love their numbers. So it's not even surprising that they chose those ley lines. Yeah, we have some interesting ley line stuff happening in New York too. Oh, more than usual? That's interesting. Well, aren't we due for like a major solar storm? We haven't had a really big one for like over a century. So I wonder if that's a sign that it's coming or a sign of the polar reversal. Thank you for the wrench. Talking about water. Ever heard about the theory of the movement of water? I've heard it all goes through Antarctica, like a filtering system of some sorts, where all the waters originate from. No, I've never heard that. I know how the gyres work in the oceans. That for the most part, they work in a gyre, but I haven't heard of this. But that's cool. I want to look that up. Oh, that is interesting. Yeah. I know. Right? Well, here's what the interesting thing is, like with this Antarctic treaty, they enforce the penalties and the laws or whatever for going to Antarctica. And I guess if you're an American and you set foot into Antarctica, it's a $10,000 fine, right? Our games will cover that. But on top of that, you get a year in jail for every law you break. And who knows how many ridiculous laws are down there. But apparently that's the penalty for crossing on your own. Because I've thought about that. I'm like, why don't people just randomly just say, whatever, I'm going in, I'm crossing on my own. Two big holes in the sun now, supposedly. Storms coming. Do your own research. Yeah, I will. I think the last giant solar storm was 1850s ish, right? So they say we're overdue for one, and we didn't have obviously all the tech that we do now. So it should be interesting to see how it all stands up to it. Make your own Faraday cages for your devices to protect them if you can. Sorry, I'm trying to remember what I wanted to touch on next. Oh yeah, so some of the interesting things are like it's not all underneath Antarctica. Some of it is on the surface, and I found an interesting little video. I got to see if I can remember how to play it and get the sound through, but I'm gonna try. About okay, so Linda Moulton Howe, the investigative journalist, spoke to a Navy SEAL whose identity had to be covered up about something he was sent to visit on Antarctica. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. Sorry, guys, just give me 1 second. Wait, okay, I'm in the right place. I'm trying to remember how I can do this. Do I have to turn off my mic? I think that's what I have to do, right?
In July 2018, Linda Moulton Howe interviewed a whistleblower who offered to provide her with classified information regarding Antarctica on the condition that she not reveal his identity. Her source, a retired Navy SEAL who she identifies as Spartan 1, provided her with details of an ancient structure he claims to have visited during his time at the South Pole.
At that time, my rank was First Lieutenant Commander, Naval Special Operations. We were inbound the southeast coast of Antarctica. We were dispatched for, unofficially, was a research reconnaissance mission. Officially, it was to find a certain individual, obtain any information, and bring it back.
What was the date?
August 2003.
According to Spartan 1, when he and his team reached their destination, they encountered a large octagonal structure protruding from the ice. Cautiously, they proceeded to enter it.
At the very top of the first structure that we entered, there was almost 18 feet poking from the ice. The rest of it was hidden under the ice. Each door was the same, anywhere from 18 feet thick to around 30 feet thick. And even though these doors were that thick and that heavy, you could take one finger and push them and they would open. There was no resistance whatsoever. The outside temperature was at least 40 degrees below zero. Once you stepped inside these structures, the temperature was an ambient 68 to 72 degrees.
What about the ceilings, hallways, floors?
It was lighted from the inside, but we could not find the source of light. It was a lime green in color. The walls were lined with what I call hieroglyphics, but nothing of hieroglyphics that I've ever seen in my life.
Could there really be mysterious structures buried at the South Pole? Structures built by an advanced extraterrestrial civilization in our remote past.
Buried underneath the ice in Antarctica could well be stone temple constructions. There could be biological material, remains of beings that lived there and could still be there. It could be the greatest reveal in all of human history.
I thought that was pretty great. But the interesting thing about that, okay, so it sounds like some sort of spacecraft crashed into Antarctica that's just sitting there, and they were sent on a reconnaissance mission. And apparently, it's unless it was a structure built, I'm thinking it sounds like a spacecraft, whatever. But it's interesting because when we talk about like sci-fi and reality, and are they trying to tell us stuff? Through sci-fi is a predictive program. What is it? It's funny because I think of the X-Files movie. I think of Fight the Future, and that involves an alien craft that's buried in Antarctica. And I also think of, I've never seen it before, and I know it's shocking. I haven't seen this one. Alien versus Predator. Isn't that also the same thing? Structures in Antarctica that were built by non-human races, right? So it's interesting how we see that we see this, mirrored in sci-fi, how we see it mirrored in the media. But and again, it's like, is it predictive programming? Is it them trying to tell things because in order to get whatever karma stuff they need, they have to reveal the truth in certain ways? So this is them sliding in the truth. But yeah, it's intriguing, very intriguing. But why would a spacecraft? Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember how thick did he say? Unless it's to withstand whatever forces, whatever gravitational forces in those type of drives. I don't know. But I thought it was interesting. Who knows? Always take this stuff with a grain of salt. But again, I just find it interesting that you kind of see the same things reflected, throughout popular media that came before 2003 when this supposedly happened, and media that came afterward. it's, I don't know. It just, that those type of things always tickle me, as you guys know. But let me just scroll up to the top, see what I'm missing. Okay, so you're in New York City. Angels and Demons here. We have one of the twin Cleopatra's needles. Second is in Egypt, both in ley lines, I think. And why would Egypt give us that? Is that the obelisk? Is that what the Cleopatra's needle is? Because then that becomes a whole other thing. I think that becomes sex magic. So you have sex magic going on the ley lines. And the other ley lines in New York that I was referring to is actually up in Orange County in Pine Bush that has all that weird phenomena happening. It's said that it is on ley lines, in addition to just being a place with a different gravitational forces, different the makeup under that area is, I think it's quartz, it's some sort of crystal. So no worries if I can't post a link. If you type in bedtime stories footprints in the snow on YouTube, you'll get the video I'm thinking. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, and here's the thank you, Torin. So 2 giant holes appear on the sun. So there's that. Makes me think of that song, right? Black Hole Sun. I won't sing it. So a lot of the Hex Guild crew is talking about expeditions in Antarctica. Okay. I like this. And Brandon wants to send up a rocket. Oh, I love this idea. That would be awesome. Settle some debate for us. What side is Brandon on? I don't remember. Oh, I'm so looking forward to watching the thing. I mean, I have the movie, but I'm waiting to see it in the movies. I think that'll be quite an experience. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's why I like, that's what makes me wonder about, popular media. They have to do things in plain sight, or they have this rule where they have to just reveal the truth every once in a while. So that's why they think that Admiral Byrd, he kind of just followed this narrative of, it's just ice, it's this, it's that. But his son says that he found Admiral Byrd's diaries, and that it, revealed that there was a lot more going on. One of the things that was supposedly revealed in his diaries was that Admiral Byrd was flying over the South Pole, and he looked down and he saw an opening, and that looked very temperate, and he flew into it, which I don't know how the physics of that would work, but whatever. He flew into the hole and then was escorted by these flying saucers to this person called the Master, and and this guy warned him about nuclear weapons on the Earth and things like that. So there's that Admiral Byrd thing, but there's also things that he would go on shows and he would just say these things in interviews that would it didn't follow his original narrative. And you wonder if that's that occultist thing, if, according to the occultist rules, he has to reveal the truth every once in a while. And that was what was happening in the interviews when he was older. It's pretty intriguing. And then I think we know that there's also, that rumor, or did it come from his diaries, that he had found like a dome down there at a certain point that they couldn't fly past? Did he also talk about the Nazis? So yeah, so there's so much more you can get into this. So and it's like, what aspect do you want to approach it from? Do you want to approach it from the the firmament aspect? You want to approach it from the Nazi aspect? You want to approach it from the Agartha aspect, which yeah, I would like to look more into the inner earth thing. I think there's a book called The Smoky God, which someone recommended to me, that touches on the entrances to Hollow Earth, to Agartha being in the poles. So I'm like, okay, we're definitely gonna have to revisit this Antarctica topic sometime. Oh, okay. I didn't catch that. Or I caught it and then I forgot about it. Yeah, who knows? But even if it's not a spacecraft and it's just a structure in Antarctica, why would you even need doors that thick or walls that thick? Like it's odd, because even you go to McMurdo Base or South Pole Station and nothing is that thick to protect you from the elements. Let's say it's just a structure and not a spacecraft. Yeah, it just either way, it doesn't make much sense. Okay, it's in front of the mat. I've been to the mat, and I guess I don't know if I've never noticed it. I know it does. I know. I know what you're getting at with that. Hey Excelsior. You want me to say no? I won't. I won't. Yeah, you'll see the viewership all of a sudden drop to 0 if I get it. I don't even know all the words. I just like. Though I do like that song. That song's the yeah, just the vibe of it. Yeah, rags to riches, Brandon. Why did I say the wrong thing? Did I say something else? Well, that's what I meant to say. A lot of these magnetic special places do have quartz underneath, but more interestingly are the ones constructed above aquifers, like quartz limestones that underground water flows through. Well, they do say that sometimes a lot of portals, if you're talking interdimensional portals or spiritual portals, are connected to water. I heard somebody recently talking about that when Jesus cast the demons from that man and they asked to be put into the pigs, and then the pigs ran into the water and drowned themselves. It's thought that they did that. This is, I forget who said this. It was but the idea behind that is that, you know, that portals do tend to exist in water, and it makes the transition, you know, out of the pig and into that portal a little easier for them to already be in water. It was interesting. It was I heard it on Blurry Creatures, that podcast. I love to believe there are more advanced, benevolent civilizations here, advanced humans. I mean, it would be nice, but maybe I don't have that much faith in humanity to think they're benevolent. Otherwise, wouldn't they have shown themselves? Yeah, quartz is everywhere, but I can't remember in Pine Bush if it's a specific quartz deposit or what kind of crystal. There's some sort of odd deposit that's happening there too. This documentary gets into the early Earth Nephilim cultures, including Atlantis and things concerning Antarctica. Thank you so much, John. And you know, I don't know enough about Atlantis, but this definitely is like, this Antarctica thing is intriguing me with Atlantis, because I'm like, there seems to be some sort of link between the two. Oh, sand, totally, yeah. Especially up here in the Northeast, you pick it up and it just like all looks like quartz. Copernicus came up with heliocentrism around the time of the oldest Antarctica map you mentioned earlier. Okay, so in the 1500s, right? Would that be was Copernicus in the 1500s? I know, it's interesting, these time periods that they all happen in. Yeah, so Torn, maybe I worded it wrong, but there's something specific about the quartz up there that's unusual. Or sorry, that the crystal, there's something specific about the rock composition up there that they say it's unusual. It was notable enough that they have info about it at the Pine Bush Museum. I just can't remember specifically what was the weird thing. What's your temperature on the purpose of the Earth and who's managing it? Do you lean toward prison planet or more optimistic? We can sense God, but is there something malevolent between us and him? No, I don't believe malevolent between us and him. I take the Christian perspective of the fall of humanity, the fallen angels, and Satan causing the chaos on the earth. Not that there is something. I mean, I have heard some people discuss that. Some people do believe that, but no, I don't lean that way. I believe that God is a patient God, and that, you know, humans are you know, fallen creatures in need of a savior. And that unfortunately we are capable of a lot of bad and a lot of evil. We don't have that. So, and I think God is patient, and he gives us time to come to repentance and to do the right thing and to come to him. And we are just kind of, we're in that waiting period where God is being patient with us. So no, I don't believe anything bad comes from God. It comes from darkness. It comes from Satan. And it comes from just our nature, as our fallen nature as human beings. So not, the prison planet is an interesting way to put it, because a lot of us can't wait to get off, right? Yeah. Wait, what was school? I don't remember. Did I miss something? But sorry, hold on, let me just. Okay. Oh, I think that fixed it. All right. My signal seems off. But interestingly, though, this whole thing about Admiral Byrd going into Agartha. Now, we know UFOs have kind of always appeared throughout history and have been reported in different things and have appeared in art, and just different historical accounts of UFO things. But like, there's an interesting correlation that, around that time Admiral Byrd went to Antarctica right after World War II is the time of kind of like the big UFO era starting. And people say that that's because nuclear weapons were used in World War II and the aliens were trying to warn us. And no, I don't tend to view that whole aliens benevolent trying to save us, or save us from that type of thing, and that's why the UFOs appeared. No, I don't buy that. But I do think it's very interesting that it all kind of coordinates the beginning of that UFO era, especially with like those flying saucer appearing things. It happened around the same time as Admiral Byrd's expedition. So it's like, is there a connection there? I mean, there seems to be. And what is the connection? Did one cause the other, or did the UFO era phenomenon, whatever it is, draw people to Antarctica? So it's a few ways to look at it. Oh yeah, sure. Quartz has different concentrations in different areas with all the amazing caverns and such. I just think it's amazing how common it is and how it's so important. Oh yeah, no, I mean, when you look at the makeup of the Earth's crust, it's really it is intriguing, especially like even what we put value on, like having granite countertops in your house is like this valuable thing, and it's expensive and improves the value of your house. Meanwhile, quartz is like, sorry, not quartz, granite is the most prevalent rock in like continental land ever. So no, it is interesting to make up, but it's but a lot of people do believe that certain concentrations of it do cause or related to weird things that happen. I love the comparison of anamorphic man-made glass and crystalline quartz. No, I don't know enough about the two. But is that like the glass on the beach? Is that what you mean? Like where it turns into beach glass and eventually gets worn down to the point where it looks like quartz? That's always fun to look at. Thanks for the response for the last part. I meant that there is a malevolent, entity getting between us and God, not beef with us and God. But okay, yeah, gotcha. Okay, no, because I saw somebody recently trying to say that there's like a beef between, and I'm like, no. Gotcha. So the resonator modulator stabilizer constant. Is this like the crystal property? See, because I don't know a ton about crystals. Okay. Oh, but this is the comparison between the man-made glass and the crystalline quartz. See, this is a different world to me. Like, okay, I don't buy into the whole new age crystal stuff. But just like, from a geological perspective, I do find it fascinating. I just don't know enough about it. I love lava glass, lightning glass, and all stones and shells more than diamonds. Oh my gosh, I used to collect lava stuff when I was a kid. People would bring it back for me from the different places they went and visited. Diamonds are cool, but kind of boring. You know what's interesting? That they grow diamonds now. And supposedly they look indistinguishable from like real diamonds, but they're cheaper. Oh, the green ones? Yeah, I don't know enough about diamonds and their colors. I know, right? Is that a stereotype? The stereotype that I should know because I'm a girl? Oh, and my birthday's in April, so it's my birthstone. I should know more, but I don't. Glass and quartz are the same basic silicone dioxide, but quartz does it better, just much longer. Oh, okay. See, I guess humans trying to make what's in nature, but nature doing it better. God sent his only begotten Son to pay for our sins, thereby making all who believe in him untouchable by the Horned One. Amen. Makes the Horned One, pulls out all the tricks. Fear is for them, not for us. Yeah, God has not given us a spirit of fear. Thank you for that. Jade is worth more than gold lately. They mined it all years ago. Now antique empirical jade is like a hot stock. You know what? And I find all like the precious metals thing and the precious gems and everything. I mean, it's so, I don't know. It's subjective, you would call it. It's very odd, the values they ascribe to them. Quartz oscillators are basically in all electronics, probably less and less so though. Didn't they used to put it in radios too? Okay, all electronics, but wasn't there like a time where like it was really connected with radios? Or am I thinking of something else? See, I'd be interested in what you find when you sample that water in that diamond. Gold and sand, yeah. Oh, which would make the price of gold go up. Yeah, I would say as more things, you know, become electronic, computerized, whatever you would say. So yeah, so I think I'm gonna leave it mainly at this because there's so much to go on. But this is, you know, just kind of just the beginning, the tip of the iceberg. Huh, no pun intended. But I'll leave it there. But I do want to leave you with this other little interesting thing that I saw. I saw somebody post a video of this program, this app or something. I went to look for it and I couldn't find it, but I still found an anomaly. But they took this app that like tracks all the ships all over the earth. I don't know, tracking through satellite, their call sign, whatever. And they noticed something interesting. So you see all these ships basically where they're supposed to be, on rivers, on the oceans or whatever. They're not randomly in the middle of a continent. But then when you go down to Antarctica, all of a sudden there's a few little blips appearing on Antarctica for these ships that should be in the ocean. You know, you could click them and you could see what type of ship they are. And you see like transport ships. But strangely, they're in the middle of Antarctica. And it's, you know, and it's weird. Obviously, why is that there? Is it a satellite error? But it seemed like too many of them to be just like an error. You know, if it was one, then you're like, whatever. But it was quite a few of them. And this guy took this video and he posted it online. Then when I went to go look for it a little while after, I couldn't find it. So it's like, okay, were people then alerted? Whoever makes these tracking maps, whatever, were they alerted to this saying, oh, people are picking up on this, make sure you hide Antarctica? Because when I started looking, you couldn't even hover over Antarctica to see. It wasn't even an option. So I thought that was interesting. And in the one website that let me do it, I wasn't looking at the apps, I was looking at the websites. There was only one that let me check out Antarctica. And I did find one boat randomly stranded in the middle. But again, it makes you question things. Okay. The one that I found was a fluke, but I think whatever, these people who make these maps picked up on it, corrected it or whatever. But I think there could be something to it, that you would see so many transport ships in the middle of Antarctica. So it's like, are there passageways? Are there rivers? Is it a little more temperate than they're letting on? Are they in Agartha? Is this actually like an Agarthan thing and they've made their way through and we're seeing them through under the earth? But it was odd. I would encourage you to look into that. That was an interesting, that was something definitely that made me go, but let me hop back to the live chat. So glass and quartz are the same basis, but quartz does a better gypsum. Oh, sorry, I already was there. I was like, wait, this sounds very familiar. Okay. Where am I? There we go. Certain quartz neutralizes electromagnetic frequencies, which help wash away the side effects of Wi-Fi and other pollution that they're bombarded by. EMF protection is a high priority in my house. Is that the oh shoot, I was just talking about this not too long ago on the show. Yeah, there was I know one that helps to mitigate the effects of EMFs that it absorbs it. Ugh. I forgot, but I'll text you about it. Shoot, I think I talked about it last stream and I can't remember the name, and I always remember the name of it. Thoughts on Kundalini, any firsthand experience? Fascinating subject. I stay away from that type of stuff. I think anything, like Kundalini yoga, I think it's a red flag. I think it's a dark spirit, a demon, it's demonic. So So yeah, definitely keep my distance from things like that are demonic. And I do think that there are, unfortunately, that there is sometimes infiltration into the Christian church as the Kundalini spirit, and people are telling other people that it's actually Holy Spirit, but it's the Kundalini spirit. And that's like, as you get into some more problematic churches, like I think Bethel would be a good example of that. Bethel Church out in California. I don't know enough about the topic, but yeah, I keep my distance from this stuff. Yeah, Kundalini yoga, all that. Absolutely not. Okay, thank you. Thank you for explaining that, because I was wondering. Oh, no worries. It's all good. Sorry, guys, catching up on it. I am reading everything. I might not feature it, but you know what? Maybe that is a good thing for another show, but I do not trust that AI. And there's been a lot of talk about that being linked to the demonic. Like, is it potentially, you know, since these are spirits who are crawling, what do they say? You know, wandering the earth looking for dry places. You know, they don't have a body. They're looking for places to occupy. People like, what if this is giving basically a mouth for these things to speak through? And we think it's artificial intelligence, but it's actually demonic. So I've heard some interesting theories with that. So yeah, so I honestly, I try not, I try to stay away from it where I can. I don't trust it. Yes, and that's actually when I think AI, that's who I'm thinking about. The chat. Oh, there's a chat GPT. Okay, but the chat GPT in general. I haven't seen its thoughts, but yeah, like I said, I try to avoid it. I don't trust it. Oh, Shungite, and I'm trying to remember the other one that I have the things in my room, the EMF mitigators, but I can't remember what it's called. Oregon. Like, yeah. But okay, I don't do the whole woo-woo new age properties of crystals, but yeah, I do believe, you know, in its chemical composition or whatever, that there are certain things that can mitigate EMFs. But I just hear with Oregon, you have to be very careful who you're buying it from. I bought Oregon from a Christian, because they say that there are like witches and people like that sell Oregon, that, you know, do their spiritual things to it. So you want to be very careful about what you bring into your house. So you're reading the biology at Kundalini will keep your guard up. Oh yeah, I would definitely be really, really careful with that, because remember, the demons are deceptive, so they're going to present themselves as these agents of light, as these good things, but that's so they can get to you. You know, they have that deception so that they can destroy you. Okay, so you're on that same page. Yeah, man, because it's funny, because before I even heard about it, I wasn't into it. And not in the Terminator Skynet sense of not trusting AI because it's turning on you, but there was just something that like made me go, something made me feel funny about like Chat GPT. And usually that would be like, oh, something tech cool that I would want to mess around with. From like this I wasn't into it. So when I heard that, I'm like, oh, maybe that's why I was so unsettled by it. Don't watch the Super Bowl halftime show. Oh, no worries. I don't even watch any sports, so the Super Bowl halftime show was not gracing my screen. Oh, that's nice to know. So you test. Okay, cool. Oh, I have an EMF meter. I should test the Oregon. Narratives are the worst? What do you mean? Which kind of narratives are you talking about? Road to hell paved with good intentions, literally. Oh, yeah. I hear you. The social. Yeah. There's a lot of dark narratives happening in that world. I think that's what we're talking about. Unless we're talking about two different things. Okay, you bring up an interesting point. We must put everything through a Christian filter. You can love Motley Crue and not worship or Ozzy or Manson music and not worship the devil. But the thing is, we need to be really careful about what you put into your body and what you're inviting in. That these things carry certain things, and I'm not saying all of it. I mean, I do love some Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, Black Sabbath. I don't know a ton of Ozzy or Black Sabbath, but I do enjoy that stuff here and there. But like, you want to use discernment for the media you're consuming, for what you're bringing into your home, what you're taking into you. Because what is the saying? Garbage in, garbage out. And there are things that do have a spiritual effect. Like, have you ever watched something and you just feel it affecting you? But I don't mean just your mood, but you feel something off. That there are things that I do believe can carry certain things into your home, and you have to be really mindful about what you're letting into your heart, what you're letting into your brain, into your home. And I'm not saying specifically these, I'm just saying in general, you got to use your discernment, because some of it is just like all for show. You know what I mean? Some of these people just like, I don't know, just put it on. ChatGPT has illustrated its bias already. We'll joke about some religions and not others. We'll eulogize one president but not the other. Oh, that's interesting. And you wonder, is that its programming, or is that something more sinister coming through? Check out ChatGPT. It's better. I didn't even know there was a ChatGPT, but yeah, I'm gonna stay away from any of that. I mean, I love the Sarah Connor Chronicles, one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and that makes me wary about AI. But then when you bring in this demonic perspective, then I'm like, okay, whoa, let me stay away from that. Yeah, exactly. So, is this the ChatGPT? Yeah, no, thank you. But thank you for telling me about it. But no, not my cup of tea. But I think I'm gonna bail because I am getting really sleepy. This rain is loud. I don't know if the camera's picking it up. I asked the priest. He told me about the Christian filter thing. I look at it as fighting fire with fire. Things created with bad intentions often backfire, like pop music, the internet, etc. Okay, so you're saying that it like basically implodes on its own before it can affect people, but I do think that media has the ability to do a lot of damage. That people are really vulnerable and don't use discernment, and unfortunately it shapes culture too. I think there's a lot to that discussion though. They're just machines, never feel fear. Well, Elon is scared, but whatever. Yeah, but it's not the machines. I'm like, is it, is something working through it and deceiving us? I mean, think about like this whole what they're doing with CERN, right? And isn't there talk of them communicating with entities in other dimensions? So it's like, well, what if one of these entities are communicating back to the world through ChatGPT? And what is that entity exactly? Yeah. So yeah, but I'm gonna bail. But it was fun chatting with you guys about this. We will have to talk more Antarctica and go deeper into the weirder theories, because I feel like this is just like the surface level theories, the theories that there is different evidence of, but like we got to get into the wild stuff soon. So yeah, so thank you guys for being here tonight. Please like and sub if you're not already liked and subbed, and hey to everybody watching in the replay. If you'd like to support the channel, I got a few options in my description. I have a wallet address, and I also have Amazon affiliate links. So if you want to click through that, or even set that as your Amazon bookmark, whatever you purchase through it, whether it's the thing that I'm suggesting or just anything like even cat litter, it sends me a commission. So a few ways to support the channel if you'd like. And if not, thank you for being here. This is awesome support too. I love chatting back and forth with you guys. It's always awesome to see people in the chat and to just throw some ideas around with you guys. So hope you are having a good week. Hope the rest of your week is wonderful. Let me go back to the finish up with the live chat. Says what the live chat is saying. I'm getting all tongue-tied today. Your faith protects you. Good, Ashley. Thank you, Torin. Fun stream. Thank you, QC. I think most people are evil or weak already. The evil media just helps weed them out with trends and fame. You know what? This would make an interesting topic for its own thing, but I guess maybe I'm just a little more pessimistic about things. What do they call it? Is that jaded? Is that what they call this stuff? Well, thank you for being here, Torrin. It's always great seeing you. I feel like I haven't seen you for a while. Good night. Great show topics. Thank you so much. So thank you guys all for being here, and it was awesome seeing you, and have a wonderful night. All right. And I hope to be back at my regular time. I'm hoping I can do it. Schedule wise. So Excelsior, thank you. You have a good night too. Alrighty, guys. Mwah. See you soon. Bye.